Like my shirt. Represent. Hey there, craftsters. It's been a while, and that will be kind of explained in this video why it's been a long time. As anyone with CRPS or chronic pain knows, on your best day, you feel worse than you ever did before chronic pain when you were pain-free on your worst sick day. So your worst at your best is now your best at your worst. So what happens when you get sick and you have CRPS or chronic pain? That's something I'm going to delve into in this video. I'm going to talk about the top 5 things that make illness and CRPS just a very, very, very unfun mix. So without further ado, let's delve into my little list. Number 1 is if you're someone who is prone to having what's called pain flares, where the pain that is already terrible gets even more fired up and just out of control. Some are things you can deal with at home with the right distractions or the right medications or what have you. Others need faster medical attention, like going to the emergency room or urgent care and getting some stronger medications or whatever. In my case, as I understand is pretty much the case with anyone with CRPS, pretty much any noxious stimulus will trigger a pain flare. So if I injure myself, which hasn't really happened, but we're talking small injuries, so that's happened, bumping the arm really hard, that can set it off, which hasn't happened luckily in a long time. But just regular things, catching a cold, getting period cramps if you're a woman, all of those things just make flares happen more often and with greater severity. So as you can imagine, sickness, especially sicknesses that last a few days or even a couple of weeks, God forbid, CRPS ain't happy to share your body with the illness, and they just fight it out in there and wreak havoc, and it is miserable. The flares happen far more often, they're far worse, and if you're like me, you're in and out of whatever medical place you need to go to get the help you need, and it's like the worst roller coaster ride you could ever go on. As someone who loves roller coaster rides, that says a lot. So bad time. Number 2, second worst thing, is you're getting far less sleep than you normally do, which when you have CRPS is already seriously depleted from what you should normally be getting as a normal, healthy human being. So you think you woke up several times, well, on the other night when you just had CRPS, you will wake up twice as often, 3 times as often when you get sick with something like being up with a baby. I used to joke with friends that the arm was called the baby. This whole chronic pain thing was just called the baby because, for lack of a better word, it just feels like being a mom, being up all night trying to coax this stupid thing to go back to sleep. So it's like having a sick baby when you're sick. So it's an interesting analogy, but for any of you who are parents or have dealt with small babies, maybe it might give you a little kind of peek into how this kind of feels, at least. And sleep is really, besides medication, it's the number 1 thing that really helps with easing pain and kind of bringing it down to a manageable level. So if you're getting less sleep than normal, then the likelihood of, again, maybe having a pain flare because you're just so exhausted and everything hurts, and then that triggers who knows what, or not, or if you just make it through the night but you just are so tired and can't fall asleep. It's this weird mixture. I don't know how you can be so exhausted and not be able to fall asleep, but that's how this nastiness works. So the more sleep you can get, the better. That's what every doctor will tell you when you're sick. That's what every doctor will tell you when you're in pain. And now they're happening at the same time. But I still highly recommend trying to get the most sleep you can get and doing whatever you need to do to get that sleep. If that's making a cup of warm tea or cocoa to kind of warm yourself up and feel a little nice, or take a warm bath, listen to some nice music or a funny movie in the background, funny comedy. I always put stand-up comedy when I'm feeling super crappy on and just try and fall asleep to that, kind of giggling to myself. So sleep, guys. Sleep is the answer, and that sounds... I know a lot of people are gonna look at me and be like, well, you should know how hard that is. It's much easier said than done. I absolutely know. I know. There was a doctor that told me once, well, there's normally what I recommend for good sleep hygiene, as they call it, which is, turning off all screens an hour at least, if not more, before you go to bed, to give your eyes and your body the chance to kind of settle into the darkness and increase your melatonin levels so you can sleep, or other things that medical professionals recommend. Again, when you're up through all the hours of the night, several times through the night, and you just are miserable, if you need to turn on your favorite funny TV show and fall asleep to that, the doctor's like, yeah, this is what you have to do. We have to kind of find your sleep hygiene that works for you, because you're battling this crazy battle. So with very few exceptions, it's just kind of a do what you gotta do thing. Sometimes that's eating, junky food, if that makes you kind of feel a little good, which I try and not make that my self-medication as often as possible, but it happens. But just whatever you kind of feel that night or that hour will work, or might work, or you might think you just be trying everything and throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. That's how this works. It sucks, but it's how it works. And it's 10 or 20 times worse when you're dealing with an illness or some sort of injury. Number 3, more pain, more flares, whatever is happening while you're sick that angers your chronic pain and your CRPS. It's not just something that goes away when you're feeling better, and then you just are 100% emotionally again. These are events and times and minutes and hours and days that can be genuinely scarring, and genuinely traumatic. You don't even need to necessarily go to the hospital or the emergency room to have a pretty traumatic day, or even a traumatic hour that lasts and you remember for a long time. And that is far more likely to happen while you're sick and dealing with those two things at the same time. If anything, sometimes it feels like it's just one clump of just nothing but just trauma and not just physically but emotionally that I have to deal with, and then work it out with everyone else that I need to, whether it's doctors or therapists or whatever else after the fact, and understand that it's gonna happen again. It's not a question of if for these things, it's a question of when for all of us with these problems. That's that in and of itself, that thought can be traumatic at times. So I'm not a naturally anxious person. Anyone who knows me pretty well, I don't most stuff kind of tends to roll off my back and not really bother me. I don't borrow a whole lot of trouble. But the CRPS in general has certainly heightened my anxiety and depression levels. But just these last few weeks has raised my anxiety levels at times that I was never expecting would happen to me. But there was a while where almost every morning I would wake up and be violently ill and getting sick and needing to go to the emergency room and get some help there, and going and then coming home and feeling okay and taking care of me with the care plan that we have usually works very well. But then going to bed and going to sleep and just being terrified that I would wake up to that again, and that the likelihood of that happening was significantly high, and you would just cross your fingers and say whatever prayers you needed to say to help and do whatever you needed to do to make sure that doesn't happen. But when you're sick, and it might just happen no matter what you do, and you just have to learn to be okay with that. And that was / is a learning process for me, because that was terrifying, man. It was hard for me to not have people around, to not have people, especially people who know the situation well, like close family members, my mom in particular, to have her around in case I was feeling terrible or was walking that line of maybe going to the hospital, and trying not to. So we would try and distract ourselves with funny stuff or whatever we do. Whenever we have our things, we have our list of stuff. Golden Girls is usually at the top of that list. And then, obviously, since she can't stay here all the time, no one can, when she would leave, sometimes I would be I would feel it in my chest, like, whew, okay, so what if, I'm gonna wake up tomorrow, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I could easily be as sick as I was this morning or the morning before. And what do I do? The same thing anyway. It doesn't matter if my friends or family are here or not, but for some reason having them here just eased my anxieties a little bit, I guess. And it also helps me to be able to stay home as often as possible when I can, if I'm, like I said, kind of on the fence and debating whether I should go or not, and trying to stay home if I've been relatively recently. So these new feelings of fear and anxiety that come and go with the waves that is CRPS, just up and down and valleys and peaks, is always, I think, as long as this pain disorder is in my body, is always going to be difficult to deal with. But I feel like every time it happens and I'm in those dips, that I can deal with those feelings at least a tiny little bit better than I could the last time they happened. So I'll take what I can get, you know what I mean? So I encourage you guys to do the same. It's a sad thing that that's kind of how we need to do this, and kind of build up our thick skin, and be okay with what's going on in our bodies. But it is a good thing that thick skin is developing, because otherwise you'd be literally rocking back and forth in a corner all day, every day, just petrified of everything, and moving and touching things and going to the hospital. That sometimes feels like the easy option. Not gonna lie. So if we need to develop these mental calluses just for our own sanity, to protect our own sanity, then c'est la vie. That's just part of the game, I guess. Number 4, I kind of delved into already, is just when I'm not feeling well, I need more help, and I need more people to do more things. So that means people have to sacrifice their time and their energy and their money or whatever else it is to be with me and take care of my needs just that much more often than they already are doing. And that definitely makes me feel super crappy. I don't enjoy, not as much as I enjoy having the people that I have around me, because they are all just pillars of support and absolute rocks, and I couldn't have asked for a better team as far as family, a better team as far as friends, and a better team as far as the medical professionals that are truly on this journey with me. So I love seeing these people, my friends and family, when they come to my aid, and at the same time I wish they didn't have to be there or be here. There's a lot of paradoxes that go on with CRPS and chronic pain, where you feel two opposite feelings, completely opposite feelings at the same time, where, especially like in that example I just said, where I just desperately want someone here, even if they don't need anything, food, medicine, I don't need them to do anything. I just want them to be here with me, because that's comforting. Watching something funny and laughing together is more comforting, and it's easier to laugh with people than it is by yourself. So while I love the time I'm spending with these people, I wish that they could be doing whatever it is they wanted to do, and then just come and see me and hang out and just be normal people. That would be the dream. But this is a pretty close second. I don't think that there's anybody here who genuinely regrets being here or resents being here. And I have wonderful people who tell me that all the time, since we talk about this relatively openly, which makes me feel a lot better when they say, hey, listen, it's, I'm here because you need me, Rosemary, but I'm also here because I want to be here with you. I want to see you, be with you, laugh with you, talk with you, whatever. Means a lot. So I would encourage people to simultaneously be grateful to everyone who helps you, and the more verbal you can be to the people who are doing those things, the better. Also, you don't need to be kind of kicking yourself quietly in the background while they're doing all these things because you feel guilty that they're here, that they have to help or anything like that. You can be grateful to say thank you without having to feel that, like, thank you. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen. I wish you didn't have to be here helping me. You can just stop at the thank you part, which is, like I've said many times before, easier said than done. It takes practice. I still suck at it. But allow the gratitude to end when the grief is starting to kind of mix in with it, because those two feelings can easily be kind of mixed together, and it kind of muddies the waters of feeling good and thanking people to turning into feeling like crap. No one who's helping you wants you to feel like crap. That's why they're here. So I'm undoing their help by when I feel crappy. So I do my best to not feel crappy. Try not to feel crappy, because you don't deserve to. That's the main thing. And last but not least, number 5. This one I could honestly do a whole separate video about this topic, and I probably will at some point because I think it's important. But if you're like me, and when you're sick or injured, that triggers more flares and you need more medical attention as a result than you would normally. Let's say you're used to normally getting extra outside help once a week, maybe twice a week on a bad week, and now you're asking every other day, sometimes every day, or even sometimes multiple times a day when it's at the worst. not everyone that you interact with when you, let's say, go to the emergency room knows you the way that your closest, most involved doctors, nurses, whatever's do. You're lucky if they're kind of just glancing at your general medical records, but they certainly don't necessarily understand why I have the care plan I have, whether they agree with it or not, whether they think I should be here or not. That can sometimes cause tiny issues, whether it's doctors or nurses who don't agree with the care plan that we have worked on over many, many years with these doctors that I have that are very involved, or they have other opinions about why they think I'm here. I've seen the term drug seeking in several reports and made sure I've checked with the proper people to make sure that I am not having a drug issue, I'm having a pain issue. But that doesn't change everyone's minds, because like I said, not everyone knows you when you go. So you might get some people to understand as you go, which is a good thing. It's gotten much, much easier over the last decade to ask for help because more and more people know me. But it is a slow learning process, especially for those who aren't super involved in my care, because this is complicated crap. It's not black and white. It's just ridiculous, and dealing with it is just as ridiculous sometimes, and sometimes you just gotta roll with it in a way that newbies to this experience don't necessarily understand. So that process of kind of winning people over and making them realize that this isn't a game, this isn't something I'm enjoying, this is my life, and this is not fun, and I'm just here to get what little relief I can get in this moment, because at this stage, in this moment, I can't bear it anymore. It feels good to make people understand that reality about how I feel and not have their own incorrect opinions about me and my feelings and my motives for going anywhere and seeking any kind of medical attention. I'm positive that anybody in the CRPS community or the chronic pain community in general has had issues with medical professionals at one point or another, because we're on the same painkillers that are creating what's now referred to as the opioid crisis. We're taking those opioids. So when there's tons of people who are hooked on these drugs for wrong reasons coming to places asking for drugs, and they see that all the time, and then finally someone who legitimately needs those drugs comes in and asks for them, sometimes it can be really, really hard for them to differentiate between someone who's in legitimate pain or someone who is just withdrawing or needs some other kind of help but wants the drugs but doesn't necessarily need them for the purpose that they're meant for lack of a better word. It's sad that people who are in pain and people who need to take these medications have to deal with these kinds of issues, but at least as far as I've seen in the last decade, it's pretty unavoidable. There's a lot of parts of our healthcare system that are very broken. There's a lot of parts of our healthcare system that are wonderful and that I love and I appreciate, but I think that there's also several problems that we could and should fix that would make this journey of lifelong chronic pain immeasurably easier, whether it's better communication with your doctors and nurses and the people involved in your care, having the humility to say, hey, I don't know what's going on with you, or I don't know what to do about this, so I'm gonna reach out to so-and-so. There's a lot of things I could get into. Like I said, this could be its whole separate issue, so I don't want to go to ramble for too long. But when you're sick and going in and out of urgent care, the emergency room, because the flares are happening, like I said, at one point almost every morning when I wake up and just get immediately violently sick. The doctors who know me don't bat an eyelash when they see me. Doesn't matter really how frequently, as long as we know the cause. If we don't know the cause, then we start to kind of wonder if maybe I should be admitted or things like that. But if we know, oh, Rosemary's sick and dealing with her CRPS stuff, so she's just here because she's having another flare. Like I said, the doctors who know me don't hear it at all, whereas the doctors who don't know me, or the nurses who don't know me, look at that and they're like, when you were last here yesterday and the day before, like, that looks a little sus to people, and I get it. So this is we're all learning here, so I try and be as understanding as possible, and I encourage you guys to do the same as people are learning about you and your problems. But at the same time, stand strong and be very firm that the care you need is the care you need, and you do know your body better than everyone else. They like to say that to you and then tell you that you don't know crap and we're not going to give you these, we're going to give you these, or do this or not do this. But the reality is you do. Of course you do. So trust that, be firm about that, while at the same time having the ability to kind of walk them through what exactly is going on, baby step style. Just be prepared for that, and try to be patient, because when you do it 1,000 times, the 1,001st can be just like nails on a chalkboard. So thank you guys so much for checking out these videos. It means so much to me, and I hope that it can help you guys in any way, shape, or form. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day, and I will see you next time. Bye.